All right, y'all. Gonna listen to a little bit of Gary Primich here, and then I'm gonna talk just a little bit about influences and kind of who you guys are listening to. I'm actually interested in hearing what kind of what names pop up in this video at some point. Maybe not live, but eventually when it gets published. I'm really interested in hearing who it is that you're listening to, because for me, that's the number one, push that I have in all of my studying and playing is the inspiration. Like, who am I actually listening to that's pushing me to want to learn these things? So here's Gary Primich while we warm this video up. This comes from Doghouse Music is what it's called. So I'll say this, Gary Primich, out of all the guys that I listen to, Gary Primich is the guy who always played stuff that surprised me. Creativity is just off the charts with his playing. So if you're not listening to Gary Primich, you should probably pick up anything you can find by Gary Primich. If you're into blues harmonica and you don't have a variety of styles of blues harp players, I would also recommend you think about, for example, let me just turn this down. Thinking about this, you guys. So, like, you got your Chicago players. So I remember listening, tirelessly and endlessly to James Cotton, Carrie Bell, Junior Wells, and Billy Branch, especially that CD Harp Attack, which I'm sure a lot of people have out there. But then obviously discovering the rest of what they recorded on their own and listening to, the important stuff that was recorded, before that point. That was a little later in James Cotton's career and Carrie Bell's career, and quite frankly in the middle of like Billy Branch's, rise to where he is today. And so yeah, those cats, you want to learn about Chicago blues harp, grab that CD, but find their other stuff. CD's like 100% Cotton. Buddy Guy and Junior Wells, the acoustic CD that they put out. Carrie Bell's got a bunch of CDs out. All these dudes are very influential, at least for me. And then I would say, think about the other styles, like, your West Coast players like William Clark and Rod Piazza for that kind of jump and swing stuff. And then, I'm constantly being pulled by other musicians and music as well. So I want to know what you guys are listening to. I wonder if, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know how many of you guys have gone live on YouTube, but they got all these little buttons on the bottom, and I'm pushing them to see what they do. I can mute my microphone. Oh, wow. Look at this. Oh, yeah. Wow. Okay. Maybe I shouldn't be playing with all this stuff. What do you guys think here? Whoa. Okay. This is honestly a little freaky. Let me get out of this. I'm totally distracted, you guys. How do I make this go away? Whoops. Okay. So I want to know what you guys are listening to. Why? Because I want more ideas. And hey, what's going on, Andrew? I want to talk to you about, God, how do I make this go away? You guys, once you start playing with this stuff on the bottom, oh, I think I know how to make it go away. There it is. Early Fleetwood Mac. There you go. For sure, early Fleetwood Mac. And don't be thinking just harmonica. I mean, I'm a harmonica player, and obviously this channel is about harmonica playing, but be thinking about, like, horn players. For example, Maceo Parker was a huge influence on me, and that cat, just something about the tone, the influence from the tone he got out of his horn, and the phrasing, I suppose. And I think listening to other instruments, the advantage is just that. The tone and the phrasing are unique when you start getting into other instruments, and so you have this advantage that maybe a guy who's not listening Is that all right, you guys? That's light was killing me. You have advantages because you're emulating things that are outside of just your instrument. Makes sense? So you're emulating the tone of a sax, the tone of maybe a keyboard, a Shirley keyboard run or some sort of, that's, there's certain little keyboard things that sound like some harmonica moves and vice versa and in the horn world. But then there's all these things that are very different in the phrasing again and tone. So that's what I've been doing over the years, is just listening to a lot of good music and letting it soak in and not trying to just live in the harmonica zone. But Gary Primich, I had that song going, Mr. Lucky, because all of his stuff is just so good. And here's a guy who's not just playing blues. If you really study and listen to all of his stuff, it's everything. It's country, it's folky, it's a little bit of rock. That name sounds familiar. Rory Gallagher. I'll check it out. Right. So that's why I like Gary, and he plays stuff that's you don't see coming, like Texas Love Kit. Chromatic piece. I want to say it's a B flat harp, B flat chromatic. You guys hear that? I'm assuming you can hear it. The phone is right against the computer. And the cool thing is I'm pulling, I might hear this chromatic piece, and instead of trying to learn it on the chromatic, I'll pull out the diatonic, because the phrasing is unique on the chromatic. And just grab some of those ideas. Yeah, like that little run always was the one that got me, you guys. Who listens to Gary? This little run right here that he did, I used to go back and try to figure, let me rewind that. Check it out. It's almost like a cross harp. Like if you moved, again, this is why it's cool to be listening to something and not copying just diatonic to diatonic and all that. Like, so if he's in C on a B flat, but you grabbed an F or something, that's the riff, I think. Because he takes that little, let's see if I can find it again. So he still moves, but that's the kind of thing I'm grabbing from it. My point is, the lesson is not always the notes. It's not always the idea of the actual lick itself. It's the phrasing and the tone that he gets out of this. What else we got here? I will mention quickly that if you are into these online summits I'm doing, there's one coming up June 2nd, you guys. The Global Blues Harmonica Summit is an online interactive blues harmonica camp, workshop, seminar, webinar, whatever you want to call it. It's $40 and you get access to the recorded sessions if you can't make it, or even if you make it but you want to review it. So that's happening June 2nd. You can go to blowyourharp.com to learn about that. Today I'm talking about different players. I haven't really talked a whole bunch about different harp players yet, but I really wanted to get the ideas from you guys also of who you're listening to. Let me just rack my brain for a minute. Let me throw some names out there. Charlie McCoy in the country world, especially for really clean and beautiful melody playing. Not just the fast, improvisation stuff he does, but just his melody playing specifically. If you go to his website, I think he still has it there. He's got like a list. He used to have a list of all of his music he's recorded and all of the harmonica keys that he used in every song. That's helpful. So I would go check that out. And Steve Mariner up in Canada. Maybe you haven't heard of Steve Mariner, but Steve Mariner is a great rock slash. Well, he's a blues guy, but his band Monkey Junk plays a bunch of rock mixed with blues and soul and funky stuff. I mean, it's really eclectic. He is an amazing harmonica player from Canada. Really like that guy. Pat Ramsey, yeah, Johnny Winter, Pat Ramsey. Pat Ramsey would be somebody to check out for sure. Which reminds me of like a Paul Butterfield. If you're looking for more of that rock edge and you haven't heard somebody who's really laid out there the rock side of harmonica, at least in my eyes, Paul was a blues guy who rocked the blues. That's kind of the approach he had. And then, really thinking about outside of the genre you're listening to or that you want to portray. If you're a blues guy, like I always knew I wanted to play blues, but what it was missing, what would complement the style that I wanted. So something maybe like listening to Howard Levy, who's completely very melodic driven in his playing and very articulate and clean, and bringing in some of that influence from, because I used to listen to a lot of his playing and just think, wow, here's something I'll never figure out, which is still true, but I'm grabbing elements from him. Johnny Dyer, yeah. R.J. Michaud. R.J. Michaud is a great player, modern player. Johnny Dyer, who died 4 years back, I'm guessing, maybe a little longer than that. Great player. Here's a guy who most people don't know about, but he was back in it. He was in it when history was being made, when Little Walter was around, and he knew everything. I got to hang out with him one time, and he knew every Little Walter song, every word, he could sing all the solos. James Harmon for his songwriting and his cool harp playing too, man. Depending on how far back you dig with James Harmon, I'm really a big fan of James. I'm just visually moving around the country, kind of in my brain. We got guys like Kim Wilson and Dennis Grunling, a lot of modern players that are still, have been doing this for a long time, are still out there on the scene. Rob Piazza. This is all off the top of my head, you guys. But then guys like Aki Kumar on the West Coast, who's doing his Bollywood thing too, right? Something totally different. If you haven't checked out Aki Kumar. There's a lot of guys out in Chicago. I don't know the scene well enough at this point exactly who's out there currently killing it in Chicago, but I know that there's so many good blues players out there that there's probably plenty of great harp players too. But the pockets are all over. It's not just Chicago or the West Coast or New York or whatever. It's all over the place, and in the South and in Florida, Texas. Greg Izor, for example, from Austin, Texas. If you don't know who Greg Izor is, talk about the epitome of a rising modern blues harmonica and blues man. Forget just harmonica, just a great songwriter. Greg Izor, I-Z-O-R. And the Box Kickers, I believe. Jason Ricci, of course. And I think I forget to mention people like Jason because so many people know who that is. He's had more exposure, let's say, on social media and attention through other areas. But of course, Jason Ricci. I think there's so many. I would think about the old country stuff. So I got into this early on. There's a lot of stuff I was introduced to early on that didn't make sense to me. Like, meaning I couldn't relate to it. Like the old country stuff, I don't want to mispronounce or missay anybody's name. Hold on one sec. Like Jazz Gylem, I always wondering if I'm pronouncing his name right. So he was an American blues harp player. This is what Wikipedia says. But I know him just from like seeing titles where he was out there doing his thing, listening to those tracks, going, what the hell? How are these guys playing the high end the way they play the high end, and some of the middle runs in the harp was really advanced. God, there's another guy that's ridiculously good that I can't think of his name in that genre right now. So outside of the box, in the world of harmonica, just saying, expand your horizons. Don't just take what's fed to you. You know what I mean? Like what the obvious stuff are. Look outside of that. Cannonball Adderley. There you go. So it's the ideas from you guys today too that I'm looking for. That's why I was hoping people would just start. You feel free to throw in to the mix the names of people. Like if you're on social media, there's some good groups you can check out. Modern Blues Harmonica. Slim Harpo, Snooky Pryor. What about those guys? So let's just slow down for a minute. I mean, we hear names like Sonny Boy Williamson 1 and 2. We hear names like Little Walter. These are the names that come up all the time, and you should be listening to those cats for sure. But Slim Harpo, no one's really talking about Slim as much. And guys like Willie Foster, who, for me, gave me this something to think about in the way they phrased. So Paul DeLay, okay, we'll get to him in a minute. That's like a whole nother video. But so those guys I'm talking about though are so important for getting the basics, a great foundation in your playing of phrasing and how to just lay something out there beautifully. Paul DeLay was a genius, creative monster, probably more than, dare I say, anybody I can think of next to like the Little Walter status, for sure, and in a different way, in his own way. And what I loved about him is that he played all sorts of music, not just, it was blues was the roots, you know, of all the tunes he wrote pretty much, but it was all over funky and rock and jazz stuff on the chromatic, and the playing that he recorded, the stuff that Paul recorded before he passed, is something that everyone should listen to. If you haven't been listening to Paul DeLay, it is just, your mind will go, because there's no one else that plays like him. His ideas are different. His tone is different. Oh, how's it going? From Venezuela. Very cool. I have been to Venezuela. Where was I? Yeah, so let me keep talking a little bit about a couple other people. Even a Taj Mahal. So here's a guy who's not known for his harmonica playing first. But what I like about, oh, don't get me started on Little Sonny. What I like about Taj is that he always plays what fits the music perfectly. You listen to, oh, there you go, Charlie Sales. Yes, yes. Thank you guys for these suggestions. Don't let me forget Little Sonny. I'm going to get too distracted here because I'm thinking about a bunch of stuff now. Snooky Pryor, I just want to sneak that in. Same vein of finding your pocket and your phrasing. There's an order of operations. If you're a beginner, Paul DeLay and Little Walter, save that. Listen to that with no harmonica in your hand, ever. Listen to it to get the seeds planted. For building ideas and copying, start with guys like Snooky Pryor, Willie Foster, even Sonny Boy, okay? You'd be able to grab a couple of those ideas a little easier at first. Now, Little Sonny, who's a funky guy, man, he played all the funk stuff. He's got to be one of my favorite guys who wasn't some he wasn't some advanced harmonica player, but everything he did was so solid and so funky and so true to the song and the pocket. So a guy like Little Sonny, if you like that funky stuff and you haven't been listening to Little Sonny, go listen to Little Sonny. You know, Jimmy Reed would be another one to be listening to early on for phrasing and getting your ideas down. Joe Falisco, great modern player. If you're not listening to him, he's into all the old country stuff, but also Chicago blues. He's arguably one of the greatest living sort of masters of those styles today, and also educators. There's so many, you guys. I'm just going to give you one or two others to think about here. I'm staring at a list finally in this last part of the Rick Estrin for sure. And what do I like about him? I think the biggest thing for me with Rick was his phrasing and his tone, especially acoustic. His ability when he was doing it, he's doing Sonny Boy imitations, Sonny Boy 2, and some Sonny Boy 1. Love Phil Wiggins. We could talk about Phil too. But yeah, there's so many. Sam Myers. How many people out there listen to Sam Myers? He recorded with Anson Funderburg and the Rockets for years. He passed away recently, somewhat recently, in the last 5-6 years or so, I want to say. Talk about unique phrasing, simple playing, but you hear it and you're like, it's so good. If you guys aren't listening to Sam Myers, go check out Anson Funderburg. Funderburg, Funderburgh, I think, and the Rockets. Oh, I bet. Yeah, I missed that comment. Man, it's gone. How do you get them back? Oh, there we go. Cool. I'm learning how to use this live thing to read your comments finally. So yeah, I would say listen to Sam for creative phrasing. He plays exactly like he sings, and it's almost like somebody who could whistle something really creative, but then he'd figure out how to play that line. And talk about a guy who had a voice. He probably had one of my all-time favorite voices out of any blues musician out there. Put him in the top 3 or 4 out there. Little Willie John, Sam Myers. Those are the kind of voices. Ray Charles. I mean, that's how good I put him up there with that. George Harmonica Smith, king of third position blues, probably arguably the biggest tone next to Big Walter Horton. There you go. Gary Smith, a great West Coast guy who has that big Chicago tone, still out there doing his thing. So today, I mean, this is just all about just ideas for those that maybe are still new to getting in. Sugar Blue, that's a good one. So like Sugar Blue, I used to listen to those. I had 2 of his CDs, In Your Eyes, I want to say, and something else. And I never could find any of the ideas easily, but it gave me some creative insight to chew on for fast ideas and interesting phrasing coming from the top end. Charlie Musselwhite, we didn't mention Charlie Musselwhite. Kim Wilson, I know I said that earlier. Let me just see here. Howlin' Wolf. Let's just put that in the mix because, again, not known as much as he was known for his harp playing, but not like the big guys, right? Not in the sense of being like the best harp player out there. But there's stuff he did that no one did and no one could probably ever touch. And tonally speaking, you'll learn a lot from listening to what he does. I'm going to throw a couple more out there. Let's get some female names in the mix, shall we? James Cotton, of course. Charlie, we said. And we did talk about James a little bit earlier. How's it going, Mark? All right, so female, Annie Raines, current great player. And there's a lot. So there's a lot of female players popping up on the scene now that are very good, and I don't know all their names. It's Big Mama Thornton even. Go check out the old Big Mama Thornton stuff where she was playing harp. Killer blues harp. There you go. Indiara Safair. Am I saying that right? And I have heard some of her stuff. Very good. So Tiffany Harp. There. Thank you guys for filling in the blanks here. Sugar Ray Norcia. I want to add that. Mark Feltham. All right. Sugar Ray Norcia, just another great blues guy. There's so many we're missing. Peter Madcat Ruth. By the way, this is all unprepared. This is very spontaneous post where I was just like, I'm going to jump on today and see what's going on. So I didn't have anything prepared. Greg Zlap. Am I saying that right? And I know that name for sure very well. Jerry Portnoy, Jerry McCain. Gotcha. We said Annie Raines, Rochelle Plas. There you go. Great. French female harmonica player. All right, cool. I think I'm going to leave it at this. Norton Buffalo. Mark Hummel. Johnny Sansone. Johnny Sansone. There you go. And now somebody's at my door. Come on in, sir.
How are you?
I'm live on the internet. You want to say hi?
To who?
To YouTube.
Hi, YouTube.
Well, I was just about to sign off, so your timing's excellent. Everybody, that's Moses. We play together here in town.
Who are you talking to?
This is a YouTube. This is live, so no, this is YouTube.
Oh, you were just talking to the world.
Well, yeah, look.
Morning, world.
All right, I'm going to say goodbye. Mo's about to lay some cash on me, so it's been great to see you guys. I will jump on soon. Don't forget, if you want to connect on the internet live and like learn from me affordably, go to blowyourharp.com because that's where I'm connecting with people all over the world. All you need is an internet connection. That's it. Computer.
Plug my stuff while you're there.
Oh, and Moses has some jam tracks. Where do we have those sitting right now on our website?
They're on Walker Shellis. Yeah.
So if you want some really cool backing tracks to learn to that are not like anything out there on the market, check out walkershellis.com, WALKER, and then shellis.com. And you'll see that Moses has some great backing tracks that you can listen to and download there. So I hope you guys have a great day, and I will see you soon.